Having seen too much news about Syria, let's look at something else to calm down our emotions. In recent days, the news that Pakistan is going to purchase the J-35 fighter jets has once again become a hot topic. It is said that after the conclusion of this year's China Air Show, the Pakistan Air Force has reached an agreement with the Chinese aviation industry and will start to introduce the J-35A fighter jets within 2 years. There is even news that Pakistan intends to purchase as many as 60 J-35As. This has once again aroused the curiosity of many military enthusiasts about the export of the J-35A. 2 years, 60 aircraft, and a broad follow-up market. Any of these keywords can be regarded as explosive news in the field of military aircraft exports for military enthusiasts. The credibility of the news source. There has been a heated discussion on the internet. I also went to check the news source. This time, the source is okay. It comes from 24 News, a relatively formal media in Pakistan. Many of the news released by this media are related to China. After this media released the news, it was reprinted by many foreign media, such as the Indian Defense News, the American Military Observer, etc. The information even flowed back to Europe and Russia. It seems to be a news with a certain degree of authenticity, but wait a moment. We have to look at the previous records again. As early as in August this year, when the J-35A was still in a state of uncertainty, news from the Pakistani media had already come out, saying that the Pakistani Air Force had sent pilots to China for training and the acceptance of the J-35A was just around the corner. Which media first reported this news at that time? I went back to check specifically. Coincidentally, it was this 24 News. So, 4 months later, the news that Pakistan was going to buy the J-35A has changed from already sending pilots to China for training to signing a contract and delivering within 2 years. Obviously, it is impossible to send pilots to China for training before signing the contract. So, does this media also have a version rollback? In my opinion, news such as Pakistan signing a contract to get 60 J-35As within 2 years and Pakistani pilots going to China to train for flying the J-35A fighter jets are all false. None of them are reliable. At most, it only reflects the eagerness of Pakistanis to obtain 5th-generation fighter jets and form a technological generation gap with the Indian Air Force. The equipment of the J-35A. From the Chinese perspective, there are 2 factors. First, the Chinese J-35A fighter jets have not been equipped to the troops at all, although it has been officially publicized at this year's China Air Show. The current state of the J-35A fighter jets is somewhat similar to the state when the J-20 fighter jets first appeared at the China Air Show. The aircraft has basically completed the national test process and been technically finalized, but it has not been mass-produced and equipped to the troops. At most, there are some aircraft in advanced trial use, and relevant operation manuals and tactical textbooks are being compiled. As for when the J-35A fighter jets can be officially equipped to the troops, just wait. By the opening of the 16th China Air Show the year after next, this matter will surely be settled. But isn't it exactly 2 years later? That is to say, within the 2 years claimed by the Pakistani media. It would be good if China can equip the first batch of J-35A fighter jets to the Air Force troops. There is a mountain of things to do next. The first batch of troops needs to train pilots and maintenance personnel, explore the technical performance and tactical application of the new equipment. There is surely a bathtub curve for the reliability of the newly arrived equipment. The first few troops equipped with the aircraft should break through the bathtub curve as soon as possible to make the J-35A fighter jets mature. Finally, and most importantly, there is the issue of forming combat effectiveness as early as possible. Besides the first equipped troops need to master the operation of the J-35A fighter jets as soon as possible. The production plants of the J-35A fighter jets also face a very heavy task. Currently, the main aircraft manufacturing plants of our aviation industry have basically perfected the production mode of flexible and step-by-step pulsating production lines. The design production capacities of both the J-35A and the J-20 are quite large. Of course, to achieve such a large design production capacity, the requirements for the main plants are also very high. From the early low-speed production to gradually increasing the production capacity, the requirements for the main plants are not low at all. It will surely take several years for the J-35A fighter jets to transition from the initial low-speed production to high-speed production. The troops need to be re-equipped, and the old equipment needs to be replaced. The J-7G, J-8F, J-11 and even some J-10A, J-11B and J-H-7A will all withdraw from the frontline combat troops and be replaced by fifth-generation aircraft. The two main plants are currently under considerable pressure to increase production capacity. Therefore, from the Chinese perspective, firstly, the pressure of refitting the J-35A in China itself is already very high. The next 2 to 3 years is a critical period. Considering the intensity of military struggle preparations, China is under great pressure, no less than the pressure when the J-20 fighter jets were first equipped. Secondly, the production capacity of the main plants for mass-producing the J-35A fighter jets needs to be increased. The early production capacity needs to be all used for domestic supply. And for the export equipment, the technical state needs to be changed. Many installed equipment need to be changed. And even the manufacturing tooling needs to be changed. Obviously, there is not so much time to do these things. All in all, when it comes to the foreign trade of the J-35A fighter jets, China Harawai is possible. Besides, the first equipped troops need to master the operation of the J-35A fighter jets as soon as possible. The production plants of the J-35A fighter jets also face a very heavy task. Currently, the main aircraft manufacturing plants of our aviation industry have basically perfected the production mode of flexible and step-by-step pulsating production lines. The design production capacities of both the J-35A and the J-20 are quite large. Of course, to achieve such a large design production capacity, the requirements for the main plants are also very high. From the early low-speed production to gradually increasing the production capacity, the requirements for the main plants are not low at all. It will surely take several years for the J-35A fighter jets to transition from the initial low-speed production to high-speed production. The troops need to be re-equipped, and the old equipment needs to be replaced. The J-7G, J-8F, J-11 and even some J-10A, J-11B and J-H-7A will all withdraw from the frontline combat troops and be replaced by fifth-generation aircraft. The two main plants are currently under considerable pressure to increase production capacity. Therefore, from the Chinese perspective, firstly, the pressure of refitting the J-35A in China itself is already very high. The next 2 to 3 years is a critical period. Considering the intensity of military struggle preparations, China is under great pressure, no less than the pressure when the J-20 fighter jets were first equipped. Secondly, the production capacity of the main plants for mass-producing the J-35A fighter jets needs to be increased. The early production capacity needs to be all used for domestic supply. And for the export equipment, the technical state needs to be changed. Many installed equipment need to be changed. And even the manufacturing tooling needs to be changed. Obviously, there is not so much time to do these things. All in all, when it comes to the foreign trade of the J-35A fighter jets, China has the intention, but it's really too busy. No country can get the ready-made products from China in a hurry. Only after several years, when China's mass production work gets on the right track, can part of the production capacity be allocated for foreign trade. Pakistan's national conditions. From Pakistan's perspective, I think Pakistan can no longer afford it. Given its current poor economic situation and weak social control, it's already quite lucky for Pakistan to be able to purchase the J-10C fighter jets, the J-35A fighter jets. No matter how cheap they are, won't be cheaper than the J-16 fighter jets and are much more expensive than the J-10C fighter jets. Moreover, it's a twin-engine and twin-medium thrust fighter jet. Its engine is different from the RD-93M engine that Pakistan is currently using. So a complete engine maintenance and servicing system has to be built separately in addition. The corresponding combat system also needs to be upgraded to provide systematic support for it. With all these aspects taken into account, for these 60 J-35A fighter jets, Pakistan is estimated to spend billions of dollars. With the current financial resources of the Pakistan Air Force, if it is asked to come up with these billions of dollars, it won't be able to do anything else. In fact, for Pakistan, I think its idea is understandable. On the one hand, historically, the Pakistan Air Force has always emphasized being 1.5 generations more advanced than the Indian Air Force. Especially when the Pakistan Air Force was equipped with the F-16AB, the Indian Air Force was still using things like the MiG-21 and MiG-29, and was simply no match for the Pakistan Air Force. However, after the Indian Air Force was equipped with the Su-30 Mki, it initially had something comparable to the Pakistani military. And after the Indian Air Force was equipped with the Rafale fighter jets, it has basically surpassed the Pakistani military. It's only by relying on the J-10C that the Pakistan Air Force has managed to draw level with the Indian Air Force again. So, for the Pakistanis, they are eager to outperform the Indian Air Force from the bottom of their hearts. On the other hand, the Indian Air Force is also catching up. Currently, the Indian Air Force is discussing how to promote its fifth-generation fighter jet program and is preparing to quickly launch the AMCA fighter jet, which is the so-called Indian version of the fifth-generation fighter jet. Never mind whether India's idea is reliable or not. Anyway, the plan has been put forward and the PPT has been basically completed. Once India comes up with its own fifth-generation fighter jet, then the balance between the Indian and Pakistani Air Forces, which has been maintained by the Pakistan Air Force with the current J-10C, will be at risk of being disrupted again. Therefore, for Pakistan, quickly introducing fifth-generation fighter jets is also a precautionary measure for the situation of the Indian and Pakistani Air Forces. How to view this news? Although Pakistan's own idea is quite good and, to some extent, what it says is indeed correct, our view is still very clear. Firstly, China's military aircraft foreign trade largely has to comply with the progress of domestic equipment in China. When China's own needs cannot be met, it is impossible to export these aircraft. Secondly, for Pakistan, China cannot be an endless provider, especially under the current circumstances where Pakistan's stance on China's national interest seems to be wavering. It is impossible for China to be wholeheartedly devoted to Pakistan. And Pakistan itself should also understand that when it comes to the import of main battle equipment, first of all, it should act within its means and should not aim too high and think about getting fifth-generation fighter jets when its financial resources are seriously insufficient. Secondly, it should give full play to the combat effectiveness of the existing equipment. In fact, many of the equipment sold by China to Pakistan have very good performance. The FC-1 Block 3 and the J-10C are both excellent fighter jets. Pakistan can completely make good use of the aircraft at its disposal. First, as for fifth-generation fighter jets, isn't it the same as if the Pakistan Air Force already has them when China has them? Instead of thinking about how to purchase fifth-generation fighter jets, it would be more practical to start with joint operations with the Chinese Air Force using fifth-generation fighter jets first. Certainly, China's fifth-generation fighter jets will definitely be exported. And judging from the definition of the J-35A fighter jet in China, this type of aircraft may assume the position of something like the Iron Wings of the Justice League in the future. Its market space is extremely broad, and it is expected that a large number of them will be sold, although the Pakistani market is important. The markets in the Middle East, North Africa and even African countries are even more important. In the future, China's J-35A fighter jets can completely try to open up breakthroughs for foreign sales from some countries in these regions first, especially when some wealthy countries in the Middle East have the demand to purchase fifth-generation fighter jets to deal with the F-35I fighter jets, but cannot obtain fifth-generation fighter jets due to certain factors. It can be said that this is a huge opportunity for China's fifth-generation fighter jet foreign trade market, which is not comparable to that of a small country like Pakistan. All in all, we will continue to pay attention to the equipment and future military trade of the J-35A fighter jet.